Everybody, Chris AMS, hope you're all well. Just thought I'd do a video on something I'm doing today. It's a 1997 Volkswagen Polo. It's a 1.4 petrol. Customer's complaint is that it struggles to start from cold. Cranks over for a long time. It does eventually get going, I think, but it takes quite a while to get there, kind of thing. It's been to another garage, I think, for this issue. So if we look under the bonnet, we can see some new components replaced. So they've put a complete new distributor system on it, new HT leads, new spark plugs, new coil pack. They've done an air filter on it, and they've replaced the fuel filter as well. So let's I've come to the vehicle. Luckily for me, so this is not, like I say, a 1997 vehicle. Pre-99, you can't guarantee necessarily that it's going to have a EOBD port, so the 16-pin standardised connector that they fitted to everything after that, kind of thing. Luckily enough, in this case, I've got one. Otherwise, I've got to break out all the different types of plugs and go hunting for diagnostic ports and the such like. So I'm here. First thing I'm going to do is we're going to plug it in. So I've got the snap-on machine out. I've gone into the vehicle already, so we're going to go to codes. We look at that, and we've got no codes present. And this is obviously an early engine management system on this kind of thing, and they don't necessarily give you as good a data as potentially some of the later vehicles do, or do the self checks as well as some of the later vehicles do. I already reckon I know what's wrong with this vehicle, kind of thing. Some of it from experience and some of it because I've had a look through the data list. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the data menu. So let's have a look at the data list. Bear in mind, this is 4 degrees outside. This thing's been sat overnight. I'll let you look at that for just a second. Feel free to pause it now if you want. Okay, right, so answers on a postcard. What do you think it is? Well, to be honest, I'm part of the video, so I'm not going to leave you to guess, because that'd just be boring. We're looking at our coolant temperature. If we look at our coolant temperature there, our coolant temperature is registering 86 degrees. Now, the coolant temperature is very important when a vehicle's starting or vehicle's running, so it knows how much fuel to put into the engine. If you remember the old style vehicles that had the manual choke that you pulled out, it would add more fuel to the engine when it was cold, and then you'd push the choke back in as the engine got warm, kind of thing. This is done automatically via the coolant temperature sensor. So the likelihood is that we've got a failed coolant temperature sensor. Now, as you know from previous videos, it's all about testing and not guessing. I don't want to put a coolant temperature sensor on it and find out that it's something else, kind of thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to test using a device. We're going to test the coolant temperature, so look at the readings, kind of thing. So let's have a look at the cranking status of the vehicle anyway, because I've not actually cranked the vehicle over yet. Hopefully it doesn't start, otherwise it'd be a shit video, wouldn't it, really? So here we are, clutch down, cranking. And nothing. So another good indicator is that we've got good RPM is the fact that you see the needle rise. So I can actually smell, it smells a bit fuely from where it's not starting correctly, I think. So what I'm going to do next, I think, is I'm going to come back to you shortly with a tester. So remember, don't forget that our coolant temperature sensor is at 85, 86 degrees. So we're going to put a testifier on it, and then we're going to have a look, see what we got. Cool. Right, so we're under the bonnet. Let me just go back into our data list. And you can see we've got 83, 86 degrees on our coolant temperature sensor. Our coolant temperature sensor is located on this thermostat housing below the distributor. You can see looks like there's signs of some leakage there as well. I don't know if he's losing any water currently or not. So what I'm going to do, if I disconnect this connector, this is a 4-pin connector, as far as I can remember, so So there we go, now we're down to 5 degrees. So that has made a difference to the coolant temperature. Now I have tried to start the vehicle with this disconnected, and at 5 degrees it's practically ambient temperature to what's outside at the moment, and it does start straight off. So I believe that we've got an issue with the coolant temperature sensor. So looking at my technical data, this is the technical data that I've got for the vehicle, kind of thing. It's giving me a resistance range, so it's a 5 volt supply. A lot of sensors run 5 volt supply, and it's telling me that between 2000 and 3000 ohms, well, I should have 2000 to 3000 ohms resistance at 20 degrees, and the resistance decreases as the temperature increases. It's an NCT sensor. And also the pins that we require to test are pins 1 and 3. So first off, I want to make sure that we've got good voltage at our sensor. It's not going to work unless it's got the correct 5 volts. So I have our multimeter out. First thing, I'll always check, so connected to ground, positive. I want to know that our multimeter is working correctly, because always test the test equipment before you start. So on the side here, we've got pins 2 and 4. And on the other side, we got pins 1 and 3. So we're going to test pins 1 and 3. Now, this is a little bit difficult to do one-handed. So let me put that there. And then you can see that. Look at that. Cool. So I'm going to go pin 1. And pin 1's got 0 volts there, okay? Or hardly any volts. I'm going to let you take my word for that. Okay, next one is pin, what do we say, pin 3, okay? And then if you look there, we have our 5 volt reference. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to plug a tool that I have. It's a resistance substitution box, or decade box. What this does is we'll substitute the sensor for this, and we'll watch what the coolant temperature does with various different resistances running through it. Now we've got an idea of what our resistance should be and different temperatures. That will just double check that our wiring and stuff is correct back to the ECU, and then if that's correct, then we can throw a sensor at it. So yeah, let me just set that up. Right, so I've got my decade box in place. I've got the 2 wires coming out of it, and I've just gone into the 2 pins 1 and 3 that we were discussing before. Now on my decade box, everything at the current time is set to 0, which is giving us 5 degrees, which is basically an open circuit reading on this particular vehicle. Now if we go back into our data list and we look, so we got a resistance of 2000 to 3000 ohms, we should have approximately 20 degrees. Okay, so we're going to look back at the data list thing, and we're going to switch up to 2000 ohms. Give it a second, and we've got 44 degrees, 25 degrees, sorry. There we go. So I'm happy with that. That's okay. So the next one, our next value that was listed, remembering as the resistance decreases, as the resistance decreases as the temperature increases, we've got 90 degrees there and 200 to 300 ohms. Now that's our next dial down, so we've got 200 ohms there. We switch to 200 ohms. Again, back to our data list. And we now have 98 degrees. So it said about 90 degrees, doesn't it, on the data list? Which is, I think, within a tolerance that I'm happy with. So in this instance, coolant temperature sensor fault. So let's go back to the vehicle now. So we saw it not starting correctly before. I am going to set that decade box to 3000 degrees, 3000 ohms. Turn that down, turn it up to 3000. Get all that stuff out of the way. Okay, so that's now at 3000 ohms. Let's see if we can get it somewhere near what atmospheric temperature is, shall we? So we're on 15 there at the minute. I don't know why I'm doing that. I should take it with me. I'm mobile, have diagnostic tool, will travel. Right, So let's up it a bit more. Let's go up to there. 14. Let's go 4,000 off. 4,000. Okay, 7 degrees. I'm happy with that. I would say it's probably about 7 degrees outside. So that will probably do us. So let's see if the old girl will start. So remember, before it was cranking, not starting. So let's try it now. Key off. Look at that. First turn of the key. That's what you want. So based off the diagnostic process that we've followed out, I am happy to say that the coolant temperature sensor for the engine management system has failed. We'll replace the coolant temperature sensor and everything should be tickety-boo again. Again, no unnecessary parts replaced, and we tested, we didn't guess. So yeah, if you like this video, please continue to follow some more. Have a lovely day.